Why is Sean, aka Forward, aka Forward, aka S4B, aka Smash Fighter, Sean Benner important to Melee history? How did he change Melee as we know it? There are a ton of people that have no idea who Forward is, whether it's because you came during the documentary boom, only follow your local scene, or simply were not exposed to high-level Melee until recently. We often wonder why Falcons do some things, or how people went from roll-spamming forward smashes to shield pressure boogaloo featuring caffeinated Falco Pro 420. Bridging that gap is something I'd like to do for you all over a series of videos where we highlight influential players in our beautiful game's history. Forward has always been one of my favorite people and players, and watching him develop the game through hard work and creativity is something that should be in every aspiring Melee's player's index. Rather than go into a deep chronological history about his origins, I'm going to start where I think Forward got lost in Melee's history. When many think of Falco and the evolution of pressure in Melee, many start with Bomb Soldier and end with Westfalls. But the inception of pressure and clean spacing really started with Forward. Forward primarily comes from a strong 2D fighter background, namely Marvel vs. Capcom 2. At this time, it was very, very rare for high-level Smash players to have high-level experience in two genres of fighting games. If you guys know anything about how hard it was to get Melee into EVO for the first time, you know as late as 2013 there were people saying, Smash isn't a fighting game. Imagine the segregation of the old days before our Smash civil rights revolution. Forward took 2D traditional fighting game concepts and integrated them with Melee in some of the most nuanced and beautiful ways. Concepts such as corner pressure with lasers, block strings that included fade-back nairs, and more. Forward created the modern waveland shine pressure we even see used today, including double lasers at an early stage. His version were low double lasers that often threw off his opponent's timing. Along with the list of first, he was one half of the first team to ever beat Ken and Isaiah in a tournament set. Forward and Taj amazed the crowd with their ability to play multiple characters and stages. These two amazing players essentially were the best rivals and teammates in their respective regions. They often had to switch characters and strategies and locals to have an edge, and this back and forth fostered an immense amount of skill development. Marth vs. Falco, Marth vs. Sheik, Fox vs. Falco, Mewtwo vs. Falco, Sheik vs. Mewtwo, Sheik vs. Sheik, the list goes on. Arizona Melee had two amazing, charismatic, and skilled players to lead them forward. And today, AZ is one of the most tight-knit, old-school vibe communities we have. We can't mention Forward without talking about his incredible Smash journey across the country. If you haven't read about it, I'll include a link in the description below. This is a must-read for anyone who's ever wanted to dedicate yourselves to Melee improvement. His journey reminds me of Miyamoto Musashi's journey as he traveled across Japan, challenging the best dojos. Super sick.
Musashi 待ちかねたぞ。そんなもので俺を倒せると思っているのか。小次郎、敗れたり何勝つ身であればなぜ鞘を捨てた。そなたに勝てば
One stop in NorCal that Forward made really changed my mind on what it meant to be an actual professional smasher. We both attended an SJSU biweekly. It was expected that he would get at least top 3. However, he played against Lunan Spectre and lost. Not only did he lose, he got decimated by Gimps, sloppy tech skill, and dealing with an unfamiliar style of Fox that simply seemed to confuse him. He lost early in the tournament. I mean, he was in losers and could have easily placed 25th or lower at this point. And keep in mind, he was surviving off his tournament wins. This tournament not only meant dinner, but it also meant transportation for the next week. It was interesting to see his demeanor after the match. It was one of understanding and not necessarily of frustration. As I would come to learn later, it's part of an outlook on Melee that I really started to adopt. More on this later. At this point, I was in Grand Finals waiting for losers to catch up, and the TO called the next match. Loon Spectre versus Ford. The crowd formed around the TV, cheering our homegrown Fox to take Ford out of the tournament again. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I put Loon into losers, so I was definitely optimistic about winning the tournament. Then I saw it. I saw what a real professional and someone who takes their craft seriously does. Ford was a different player, adapting to a slow, methodical playstyle which resulted in a solid set win. The drastic change in his play was obviously something he was comfortable doing. In addition to letting his ego not get in the way, thinking the winner's bracket loss was just a fluke. I went to Ford after the match and basically told him how amazed I was at the adaptation he made and how he was using Falco almost like a Ryu player zoning out another Street Fighter character. He used Falco's laser and up tilt like a Hadouken and an uppercut or anti-air. He responds with, "Yeah, Lunin's style is just very hard to read. It caught me off guard. It's a good style and I think I need to play more deliberate." This really opened the doors for me to actually consider and respect what my opponent is doing instead of focusing on how my skill set should win, or that I should just be playing better. Essentially, I learned what a real professional does to rise to the occasion. Ford learned how to adapt by traveling across the country, experiencing a plethora of different styles and players. I'm sure I'm not the only person Ford helped on his journey, nor am I the only person he inspired to be great at this game. I lost Grand Finals in 2 close sets, but I came away from that tournament with more passion for Melee than ever. Moving on to another one of Ford's great moments that stick out to me was his set versus Mewtwo King at a local East Coast tournament. Mewtwo King at this point was absolutely winning nearly every tournament. No one had a definite answer for his Marth. In comes Ford with the Sheik. Not just Sheik, but a Sheik with practice tech and a tremendous amount of innovation that was created by testing his concepts through many hours of play. This set is one of my favorite sets of all time. We got to see Waveland regrabs with Sheik and a developed movement set. Mewtwo King adapted and read that movement with destructive tipper forward smashes and DI reads. I highly suggest you all watch this set. It has all the great things you want in a high-level player match. Crowd reactions, interesting tech, and insane player-to-player reads. Ford almost wins a close set, and through his hard work he cracked Mewtwo King's armor, which many were not expecting. What I learned from this set is that you can cultivate your own strategies by yourself and test them against your opponents. Trust your own theory crafting, become your own player, develop your own style. Although Ford isn't as active anymore in the scene, he still has high-level Melee in his blood. After playing net play with him some months ago, he's still very good at the game. That kind of skill is very hard to take away from someone like Ford, who really made Melee a deep part of his being. He inspired a new generation of players to become top players. This includes people like Drugfox, Ty, and more. If I could sum up Ford in a phrase, it would be to respect the craft. Smash as a craft is something that includes a wide spectrum of things in and out of the game. There is an incredible amount of detail in how things are executed in the game. How fast do you nair? Can you delay it a tiny bit to gain stage? Tapping down while neutral instead of making it obvious by holding down, etc. We should respect everyone in the community for developing Smash in their own way. This game is so self-expressive that it is essentially a piece of clay that you mold yourself and share with the community. Ford's greatest asset was that he could learn from anyone. Everyone has something valuable, a lesson, a style, etc. These are things veteran smashers realize along the years, making the most out of your playtime. Finding a way.